Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. I'm the Dapper Bard in cosplay because this is a convention video where I talk about a convention I went to. This time we're talking about Anime Los Angeles 2025, or ALA 20, as they called themselves. This was an event I wasn't really looking forward to going to for a multitude of reasons. One, I'm generally more hyped up if I'm running a panel or I'm involved in an event, such as Masquerade or AMV contests, things like that. And I had nothing like that really planned for this con. In fact, I was actually not planning on going in the first place, but things in life kind of just came together in a way where I went. Secondly, I've had some bad experiences in the past with ALA. Their staff was not the best. Oftentimes, it was a staff built together through cronyism and nepotism, and it led to very haphazard work. They got kicked out of 2 hotels. I mean, they are not a con for a long time that had a good reputation. But over the last 5-6 years, they've gotten rid of a lot of those old people, got brand new people in, and you can tell that the people running the convention actually care about the convention and care about the attendees. This isn't some sort of ego thing. This is actually trying to do something for the fandom. And because of that, I've lightened up a lot more about ALA over the years because they're significantly more enjoyable than they used to be. Time where they got kicked out of the LAX Marriott, had to be off in Ontario, where I believe they also get kicked out of there too after a car got lit on fire. Good work, team. Anyhow, lastly, I've been having minor health issues. I've suffered from major migraines, and those health issues also had an impact on my time at this convention. All that being said, what kind of convention is ALA, and is it worth going to? Let's break it down. The Long Beach Convention Center, and yes, for those who don't know, Anime Los Angeles takes place in Long Beach. The Long Beach Convention Center is a bit odd. It is clearly been expanded multiple times, and it gives it tons of room, but learning to navigate it can be a little bit tricky. However, there are so many different routes to get to where you need to get to that you can end up finding really cool ways to get to different buildings that allow you to completely avoid foot traffic. I do appreciate that. In fact, I took a route to the Seaside Ballroom that ended up earning me a ribbon, and that's just something they kind of do at this con. Here, the Dapper Bard ones, which I meant to give away to people and didn't at all because I'm not good at doing that. I normally did it at my panels, but I didn't run any panels, as I said, so it's one of the little games of this con is you can collect a lot of ribbons, add them to your badge, show off. There's people who get crazy numbers of ribbons. I don't ribbon chase, but I know people who do, and good on you, people who get infinity ribbons. The point I was trying to get to is that the building has a very strange structure, and yet all the different routes you can take to get to different locations actually makes it strangely convenient once you know your way around. It should also be noted there are a lot of stairs, but there's also ramps and elevators available, so accessibility is not too much of a hindrance when making your way through the Long Beach Convention Center. Also, on a fun note, while I was sitting and having lunch, a survey lady came by and talked to us. She was representing the convention and convention staff, and we ended up answering her questions. We got a little discount card thing for food, and there was a nice little family. They were dressed up from Spy Family, and we ended up donating the card to them. We had already bought ours, and there really wasn't a point in having a discount card that we weren't going to use. Thought I'd share that. Speaking of food, there are plenty of options. Not only do you have a lot of little convention vendor stalls, including one that sells alcohol, which I'm just pointing it out that it's an option. It was there. In addition to that, they had food trucks, including the wonderful Okamoto Kitchen. I do highly recommend Okamoto Kitchen. They can be a little bit pricey, but you do get a ton of food. So if you have a hotel, you might only eat half of your lunch, and you could have a dinner later on. And if you get the bento box, you can close it all up. Just be careful carrying that around con because you could knock it over, crush it, but still good food. And then you have the multitude of restaurants that are all over that part of Long Beach. If you are looking for food and you go to a restaurant, you're looking at a 30-ish minute wait depending which restaurant you go to and at what time. I never had a problem, but people may have had issues depending when they went. Getting into the convention is relatively easy. Security was generally friendly and helpful. No one seemed to have a problem, and the lines went by fairly quickly unless they were, absurdly long to begin with. In addition to that, registration was easily located. You could go right in there. They handled everything really well. Now, I did not go on day one, so day one could have been a nightmare, but my experiences on day two and when I visited it to take these photos on day 4, it seemed like everything was a well-oiled machine, so hopefully it was that way for all 4 days. In addition to that, my assistant needed to get a badge. We got all that squared away and sorted out relatively easily, and it all worked out well for me to be able to travel around the convention despite my condition with my assistant and be able to actually enjoy all the sights and sounds of Anime Los Angeles. When it comes to programming, there is positive and there is negative. There is a lot to see and do at the con, but the way it is managed is questionable. First off, on day 1, the AMV contest and the ballroom dance were placed against each other, which is not a great way to do that because there could be people who want to go see both. In addition to that, the concerts did not clash with other big events. No other day did I notice a major event being on the same time as something in main events. Because yes, Panel Room 1 has been used for a few different other bigger events because it's a huge room. So it seems odd to me that you would screw up Thursday so bad while not causing any kind of major time issues outside of, like, say, Masquerade being up against, like, a couple different things. But outside of that, most of the time, everything looked like it was very well structured and scheduled. And when so much of the con is run very professionally, it's sad to see this one department really not getting their crap together the way the other departments do. See, I can complain about programming without even running a panel. I am that good. But I'm not going to be fully negative. I quite enjoyed Cosplay Chess. It's the first time I've watched it in a few years. It was really well done. Everyone seemed like they were having a very fun time. The host, who's been hosting Cosplay Chess for as long as I've known at this con, Maguma, did a very good job. He did some jokes, he talked with the various characters on the board, messed around a bit, helped with all the time structure issues they were having. He did a good job. The weird thing they did with Cosplay Chess, which I don't know if this is just a bit or if this is actually like the way they do it now, he had a complete team for one side, and for the other side of the board, he was pulling people out of the audience. And I don't know if these were actual audience volunteers, or if these were plants that were meant to be part of the show from the get-go that he was acting like were audience volunteers. It sounded to me like they were audience volunteers, and honestly, if I didn't have a migraine kicking in and was really afraid I was going to throw up, I probably would have volunteered as well. I was cosplayed as Giyu from Demon Slayer. That could have been fun. But the people they got were great. Everyone was having a good time. It was a lot of fun. There's some good laughs. And I'm glad I got to see that before I had to rush home to not, get sick on everyone. But good work, Cosplay Chess. Can't wait to watch it next year. Maybe I'll even sign up. If you can go all the way out to the Seaside Ballrooms, which there are multiple routes to get there, this is where our gaming is located. So, one, we have the arcade, which is dark and loud. If you are not one for dark, loud places, this is not for you. But it was always really busy. There were a lot of people playing, a lot of people having fun, ton of different machines, a lot of different variety of rhythm games and fighting games and things like that. So you had plenty of options there if that is your scene. I could see people getting lost in that room and staying there for hours. It wasn't for me. I don't really like just loud blasting noises on all sides of me, but you know what? I'm not everyone, and I'm glad they have an option for those who do enjoy that. However, what I am into is tabletop gaming. I know, surprise, right? It's like only videos I make nowadays. But their tabletop room was really well designed. You must excuse these pictures. I got these Sunday morning before it even opened up because I wasn't sure how long I was going to be able to stay at the event. They have a large room. It is separated enough from the gaming area that you don't have to yell, "I said I want to attack the monster." You don't have to do that. You just can roll and play the game. In addition to that, they had a lot of different games lined up throughout the weekend. It wasn't just, all we got is D&D and Magic the Gathering. No, they had a bunch of other games, and I do really appreciate that. In fact, in previous years, I and various friends of mine have played Dread at the con, and Dread is awesome. If you have not had the chance to play Dread, it is Jenga with a plot, which sounds silly, but trust me, those games get intense. And they'll definitely have a lot of other games, which I really like. In fact, I've wanted to volunteer to work in that game area for quite some time now. And maybe next year I will, because I'd love to run some BattleTech, I'd love to run some Call of Cthulhu, and you know what? I'll even run some Pathfinder or some Warhammer Fantasy if they ask me nice enough. When it comes to cosplay, this con is a major cosplay event. There are some awesome cosplayers here. I wish I had more pictures. I'm just not really a photographer person, so I took what I could at where I went, which really is 3 gatherings and a few random shots I took while wandering around. As for me, I cosplayed as Giyu from Demon Slayer, I cosplayed as Sieg from Fate Apocrypha, and I cosplayed as Ignis from Final Fantasy XV. This is the costume I was literally wearing a couple hours ago when I was at the con before I came here to start recording. One of the things that really sets this con apart is the sheer amount of gatherings. There are a lot of them, and they come from a lot of different series, and a few that are like vagaries, such as retro games, or retro anime, or sci-fi, or fantasy. So you have a lot of variety of what you can dress up as, and you're going to see people who go as every character you can imagine. The variety is amazing. In addition to that, there are 9 zones for cosplay gatherings that range from areas around the convention center to a nice fountain area to a quiet back area to the food area. They're all over the place. And there is a map in the program guide, and there's a map on the guidebook app in order to find your locations and get to where you need to get to. But there are some suggestions I have for improving this. First, it would be nice to have signs in those areas, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to make sure when you walk up, you go, oh, I am in area 5. Okay, cool. Because that way you can be able to know this is where I'm supposed to be, not look at the map, look around and go, this looks about right. Oh, wait, there's someone else dressed up for my series. Okay, yeah, I think I'm in the right area. Also, a board somewhere, like a nice poster board that just says gatherings of the day. This would be helpful for photographers and for cosplayers who are at the con and going, hey, what gatherings are going on today? And don't want to check their phone or something like that in the middle of the convention. And having a nice sign that's right there is always helpful. As for the 3 gatherings I attended, I only cosplayed for 2 of them. The one that I did not cosplay for was the Code Geass one. Stopped by that just to see it. As a person who does giant robot stuff, I wanted to go check it out. And I knew some people who used to cosplay from Code Geass. Was hoping I might be able to run into an old friend. I didn't, but I got a couple of pictures before heading out. I'm still glad to see there's still a few people who support that mecha series. First gathering I did was the Demon Slayer gathering. Fair variety of people. I was one of 2 Giyus. I know he's not the most popular guy, but he's fun and I like him. And we had a lot of different photos going back and forth, sitting with the group and making jokes, spoilers for the series, and talking about a few memes that came out of Demon Slayer. Was a lot of fun. The guy hosting it was great. He had a nice bullhorn thing, and he was playing some music, but not super loud. Generally fun. I thought everyone I met there was really cool. I do lament the fact that I do have ribbons that say tasty, and I could have handed those out, and I totally blanked on it. So I do apologize, people, if anyone at the Demon Slayer gathering was a ribbon collector, but I hope you guys had a fun time. It was definitely enjoyable for me. The second gathering I hit was the Type Moon Fate gathering. This one was massive. We had people in armor. We had a full-on Heracles. Just about every single series, a ton of variations. It was great. I was genuinely surprised at how big the gathering was and the sheer variety of characters. I generally go to these gatherings and I get 10 sabers, 5 archers, and then like 8 miscellaneous, including myself. And this time around, it was huge. And when I saw that I wasn't the only person going from Fate Apocrypha, I kind of had a little like squee moment. I was like, yeah! Because I was like, oh man, I'm going to go up there, or there's going to be no Mordreds, there'll be no Jeanne d'Arcs. And in defense, there wasn't a Jeanne, but we did have 2 Astolfos, we had a Fran, we had a Shakespeare. It was nice to see other Apocrypha cosplayers. And of course, obviously when we get the big group shot together of us, the sheer number of us that got together for this gathering. And I had a lot of fun. Hope everyone there had a great time at the gathering and had a great time at the con. And more than that, the person hosting the gathering was handing out these summoning tickets. It's pretty cool. On the back of it has his QR code, and I generally think that's kind of cool. And the nice part is these things are made of plastic. They're 3D printed, and that's kind of cool. It's awesome to get fun little things like this because I'm going to keep this around for a while. Probably hand it to one of my friends who cosplays as one of the masters or something along those lines, just because it's a cool accessory and a fun way for the guy to promote his own cosplay page. Now, not everyone goes to a convention for cosplay. Some of you go for shopping, and I will say the dealer hall is fairly impressive. I do recommend looking through the guide of the various booths and finding the ones that appeal to you most, because you should hit those first and then worry about other booths. In fact, because of this, I was able to find a booth selling tea and got some really, really good teas, which, for anyone who doesn't know, I love my tea. And it's one of the things I tend to grab at conventions. If I have the opportunity, I will grab fresh teas because I find the teas that are made by actual small independent groups tend to taste better than the stuff you can buy at the store. And majority of the tea that I drink is from small independent dealers. Support independent. See, I can say that in videos outside of my tabletop videos. I did find something else, of course, because anyone knows I build a lot of Gunpla, and even though I have a massive backlog, I still grabbed myself the Alex from Gundam 0080, or the NT1, whatever you want to call it. That was pretty cool. It's a kit I kept stumbling across last year, going like, I should grab that, but I'm going to grab this other stuff first. And it kept being I'll get that later. This was finally the later. I got it. They had a few other things I was looking at, but you could really tell on the Gunpla side of things, this is the here's what we have left after Christmas pile of kits. It wasn't particularly impressive. There were a couple of different stores that sold kits. Saw a lot of the Star Wars stuff. Of course, the glut of the Witch from Mercury garbage, because no one buys those, and that's why they always have a pile of them. It was kind of slim pickings, but I was glad I found something I've been wanting to add to my collection anyways. In addition to that, we have the Artist Alley. Artist Alley, the aisles are a little too small for my taste. Now, I'm not normally an Artist Alley person. I'm not a here's the character's face type poster collector. I find stickers and things like that to be completely useless. But if you're into stickers and keychains and a bunch of that kind of stuff, you had your pick of everything. Tons of series were being represented. If you could make your way through the tiny little walkways and not get crowded by a billion people, you could go and probably find your favorite character. In fact, I know because people told me they found their favorite characters. So, yay for them. It's not a big thing for me, but I do appreciate that the Artist Alley seemed to have been relatively good quality. However, I do believe spacing out those booths would be a little more helpful to those who don't like to feel like they're being crunched in like a sardine. This area also has the guest signing zone, so you got all your voice actors and American guests right in one little area. I ended up talking to Richard Epcar. I interviewed him forever ago, and I always try to stop by his booth and say hi if I can. The lines in that area can get a little bit crazy, but for the most part, you're not going to have too long of a wait to meet some of your favorite voice actors who showed up at the con. They also had a more roped off area for the bigger named guests, and a whole process for being able to see them as well. Then there's the area with the cars. A lot of cars this time around. If one matched your series, you could always do some nice little photo shoot next to the car. But as for me, the cars don't usually mean that much, but it's cool to see them. As a strange anecdote, on the last day, there was like an impromptu concert or something where the lady was just singing some songs. She had a couple people there waving around the glow sticks and a big audience watching. I'm glad I got a couple of photos of that. And honestly, I love that kind of impromptu stuff. I mean, for all I know, this was planned, but as far as I know, that doesn't seem to be the case. Either way, I do appreciate a fun little mini concert in the middle of the dealer's hall, and the lady they had singing was really good. Now, one of the things I always bring up being a disabled person is accessibility, and I will say they did a pretty good job here. Not only does the building have a lot of routes, as I mentioned earlier, and a handful of elevators to help you get around to where you need to get around to, but the staff, both the convention staff, the security, and the event staff all did great jobs whenever I needed assistance and things like that. In addition to that, every person I came across was generally friendly. People got out of the way when they needed to get out of the way and things like that. So I do really appreciate people were friendly, the staff was friendly, and there's plenty of ways to get around. So if you are a disabled person, do not worry about this con. It's one of the better ones. Even at the cosplay gatherings, I occasionally had someone going, oh, do you need me to help you? And I had a little bit of guidance assist. So that was really cool too. Which brings me into the vibes. If you couldn't already tell, I'm very positive in terms of how people behaved. Even when I went by and found people who were clearly setting up for masquerade, they were generally friendly. They were allowing people to take photos and talking with people. That lack of elitism is always nice. Now, I'm not saying everyone at this con is a saint. But what I am saying is that the people I came across were very friendly, and no one really had an ego or an attitude, which is wonderful because dealing with people with big egos, huge attitudes, people like that, I have no use for. So it is really nice to see people who are down to earth, having fun, and realize we're all just a bunch of nerds running around dressed up like anime and video game characters, trying to play some video games, do some tabletop, watch some panels, and I do appreciate the fact that we have that down-to-earth energy going at this con. Really rare for me to have that happen, and I'm very glad that I had a positive experience like that at this con. Finally, I want to also use this as a time to shout out to the security people. They were doing a great job. They were very friendly. They were very efficient. No one gave me attitude or anyone else attitude. If any of the security people are watching this, I just want you to know, thank you for your hard work, and I'm glad you were there rather than some jerks I've come across at the Anaheim Convention Center or during Otakon. Traveling to this con is an interesting experience. The question is this convention worth going to if you live far away? Now, I'm going to say this. If you're local and you're into anime and you're into cosplay, or there's a guest you want to see, just go. You're fine. Don't even question it. You will probably have a good time. If you are further out, San Diego, Vegas, Northern California, when it's a longer drive, I could argue that it would be a generally good event to hit. If you're a little bit further out, you will probably not regret your trip. However, bear in mind, you're going to have to pay California prices for gas, food, and lodging. Make sure you have that budgeted accordingly when you make your ALA trip plan. If you're from out of state, and I don't mean out of state like Phoenix, I mean out of state like Utah, Colorado, Texas. I mean, if you get a good flight, yeah, if you could fly into Long Beach Airport, yeah, it's not too far from the convention center. And if I'm going to say a 4 to 6 hour drive is acceptable, then I would assume a 3 to 4 hour flight would also be acceptable. Would I fly out here from the East Coast? No, absolutely not. As someone who did live out east, I did not fly it back for this con. And now that the con is improved, I probably wouldn't fly out for the con. But since it's so close to New Year's and Christmas, if I could manage it my schedule, I might fly in, spend time with family, do the con, and fly home. Bear in mind, price is going to be your big issue of this one. If you can figure out the pricing, it's not too bad. Now, all that being said, as I pointed out, I did have minor health issues due to migraines. So I did miss a few things. I didn't get to go to as many gatherings I wanted to go to. I didn't get to hit many of the events I initially planned on hitting. Maybe there was some really bad stuff that I just didn't experience. ALA has had problems in the past. It goes to show that if you can get a quality staff together, you can put together a really good event, even if in previous years it was a complete mess. I'm glad that the majority of the people they brought in seem to be fairly competent, even if there's issues of programming, even if there's some minor problems here and there. For the most part, I didn't experience much negativity, and anyone I've talked to thus far doesn't seem to have had any major issues with the con as well. So it really feels like this was a generally positive experience, run by a fairly competent staff with enough to do so you won't get bored. In other words, I would recommend going to Anime Los Angeles. I'm curious what kind of experiences everyone else had, so that's why I would like you to tell me about your ALA experience in the comments. Did you have a good time? Did you have a bad time? Was this an event you would recommend? Other than that, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. If this video does well, I will do more convention videos, but otherwise, I have a ton of tabletop content, a little bit of Gundam content, and a bunch of new things on the horizon that I think you will enjoy. So until next time, I'm the Dapper Bard, and I'll see you at the tavern.